Good morning. My name is Ramon Llorens. I am the publications officer for District 082, and I'm out of Nashville. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about publications. So you'll hear a couple of different words associated with publications. The A Directorate is probably the website and page you would want to go to learn the most about it. PA and PB are sort of brought together as one unit. The PA side, I usually think of being more as the outreach side, and the publication side, which is what I do, and what many of us out there do, is more dedicated to reaching within the auxiliary. So I kind of use that analogy you'll see on Facebook and whatnot, that it's kind of like two wings on the same bird. Quite often, publications works directly with the PA side in getting the word out and then getting the word pushed down all the way to the flotilla level. So to start off, I think there's a lot of confusion about publications. So I'd like to tell you what we are not. We're not the evening news. We do not have to get the word out immediately. It's what we do is put information out to our membership. It doesn't have to be fresh. So we have time to tell the story. We have time to process the story. And we usually put out a newsletter about once a month. That said, we're also not a magazine. Some people tend to be a little bit intimidated about publications because they feel like they have to use a lot of words, like make a 5-page article, take a lot of photographs. That's not necessarily so either. Our job really is to get the message out, to get it out clearly, to get it out concisely, package it so that it's easily digestible by anybody who wants to read it and learn more about it. So, by and large, from the flotilla to the division to even the district level, we publish our newsletters. So a newsletter can be anything from 1 page to, I sometimes publish 12 to 15 pages. Just depends on how much content I happen to have that month. So in my mind, that means we write and present stories which would interest our audience, and that's generally the auxiliary audience, but it can reach wider than the auxiliary. This can include stories about members receiving awards. So for instance, we cover our individual meetings, where you report to people that may not have attended that meeting, or even to refresh people's memories. Sometimes we pass out so many awards in a meeting that nobody knows exactly who got what and what those awards mean. We can put that in a format that's memorable, and everybody likes to see a picture of themselves when they receive an award, so it's often kind of good feedback to have that published, because that not only puts the word out, but it also creates a historical record. Sometimes when it's sort of a slow month, as we come into wintertime, a lot of times we don't have a lot of things going on with different facilities. We can record and report on just the meeting itself. So it's a little bit more fleshed out than what you would find in the minutes, because that's what the Secretary of Records do. But I would take that same information, write a story on it, pair that up with a photograph or two, and maybe even put down people's names so you have name recognition of your membership, and put all of that into the captions so that people generally get to know each other, even people that don't necessarily make all the meetings. Now all of a sudden they're associating a face with a name. The beauty of being in publications for me is that we can really write about just about any subject we choose, or we're not necessarily locked in to specifically Coast Guard or auxiliary articles. If there's something of interest that is somehow related to the auxiliary. We can sort of fold that in, and oftentimes that it lets different auxiliaries know there's like subgroups of people within the auxiliary that have certain interests. And you know, a lot of people in the auxiliary also belong to other organizations and you know other social groups, and this just helps to build that camaraderie, which is one of those tenets within the auxiliary. So anything that pertains to the auxiliary or auxiliary life is really fair game. So like I said, a newsletter can start out as one page. Some people are intimidated by feeling like they have to fill up a lot of content. I say to get started, start with your calendar. Put the calendar out there. I usually put the calendar out there for the next 3 months, when the meetings are going to be, district level and my flotilla level. Most of your information is going to come from the flotilla level because that's just the way the auxiliary is set up and designed. So anybody that's staying in touch with their flotilla leadership should know about different things going on, and then you act upon those and report upon those. As an FSO-PB, I would suggest a monthly flotilla newsletter. Again, that can be 1 page, can be 3 page, can be 10 page. Just depends on you know what you're able to cover and how often you have stories that come in. For an SOPB, which would be the division level, I would suggest a bi-monthly or a quarterly, and maybe even a special issue. Quite often I'll put out a special issue in the summertime because there's a lot going on, or change of watch. Change of watch is always a good time to put out a publication, just so everyone knows who the leadership are and who the changes are, as well as the appointments. I think the key to success, though, is being consistent. If you're going to put out a newsletter, let everyone know when that newsletter is going to arrive. It doesn't necessarily have to go out on the very first day of the month, but maybe within the first week of the month. So hopefully your readership is expecting that newsletter. They start looking for that newsletter. I'll even get a phone call, people wondering if there's a newsletter coming. Then you know that you have an audience, that you've built an audience, and that you do have a readership. I often ask for feedback to the newsletters. Even when I send them out by email, I'll ask that people respond back and let me know that they got it. Sometimes I'll send out a newsletter and I'll get 2 or 3 bounce-offs where somebody's email address comes back and says it wasn't deliverable. I'll usually follow up on that to make sure that I can get those newsletters into everyone's hands. I view the publications office throughout the district as a team of writers. It's not just me doing it. Although I'm the DSO, I see myself being as much an editor as a writer. And so I look at everyone within the organization, whether you're an FSO, SO, or one of my ADSOs, we're all working together to produce a product. And in the newspaper business, you may know that they have certain organizations like Reuters or the Associated Press. A lot of times what you see in your local newspaper or magazine isn't produced right there at that entity. It's picked up off the wire, as they say, and it's repeated. So we do the same thing in the auxiliary. A lot of the stories that start out at the flotilla level will work their way up through the different chains and maybe even end up in the Navigator Express or the Navigator. So there's always room for expansion. And let's see. So lastly, what we do only tells a story. It's a record of history. If it isn't written or recorded, basically 10 years from now, everybody's going to forget it ever happened. I was doing a little research into the history of our local flotilla and our local division, and I got a lot of information from 1939, 1940, 41. Just so happened that some of the key members in our division were also newspapermen, so they got it in the newspaper a lot. Somewhere around 1945, all the information disappeared. Now, I understand someone has found a large box full of newsletters in someone's garage, or they were willed to them. So I'm really excited to possibly mine that content just to find out who's been in the auxiliary for all of these years. Who were the division commanders, and what happened to some of the flotillas where we have a number but there's no flotilla there anymore. We don't have a flotilla 1. There was a flotilla 1 in 1941, but we know right now we do not have a flotilla number 1. So that'd be an interesting history. When did that flotilla disband and they spread out to other flotillas? So just writing these things down will preserve that history. I know there's also a history wing within the publications and PA department. So there's another place where this is going to sort of merge and come together, where this content can be housed. We have so many more channels for saving content now. It's not just a paper printed magazine tucked away in a garage in a box, being eaten by moths or destroyed by water. So just having that content out there and having it to where you could pull it back up is searchable and it's reusable. So you'd be surprised at what many of the members would actually enjoy reading about. So go out there and write. Keep the stories coming. And if any of this sounds exciting to you, if you like to write, you like to shoot pictures, contact your local leadership and see how you can get plugged in. Work with your local PA or PB officers and get appointed and come and join us. So thank you.